2, 3. What is up, Watch fam? What is up, Watch fam? Happy Thursday, and welcome to this week's episode of ASKTNH Live. I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and I am live on Instagram at Theo and Harris, answering your questions. So go ahead and follow us on Instagram, and let's get into some watches. Okay, someone wants to know here on Instagram about my opinions on the Cartier Santos. The Cartier Santos, I think the new iteration of the watch is quite nice. I think they did a good job. I think what makes Cartier most admirable, is not only their designs, but their, with exceptions, of course, that I view as mistakes, their strong commitment to fundamental principles of design, right? Their belief in an exploration of their DNA. What does that mean? Cartier has the, basically clean Roman dial, precious case, conservative size, right? That's, pretty much so what Cartier has done. But they've used influences, whether that be, the Tank American, or the Tank Cintre, or the Tank Crash, or the Cartier Crash. There are so many different, Cartier models, and you can see all the photos here, and how similar they all are fundamentally. And they've really just push the limits of their design and really, I think challenge themselves. Now, entering the world of sports watches is funny because probably from a retail perspective, it's mandatory. The world wants, durable sports watches. Blame Gerald Genta, that's what people really want more of. So Cartier has worked to create a line, a showcase, and a couple of options of sports watches. They have their Calibre de Cartier, they have their Santos. Their Ballon Bleu is somewhat of a compromise between sport and traditional Cartier. The Santos was introduced first, and I don't necessarily think in line with that DNA, particularly because I don't mean the original Santos Dumont. I mean the Santos from the 70s or 80s, whatever it was, the Gordon Gekko watch, the two-tone with the screws all down the bracelet. It's a classic watch. It's a watch that I actually think is quite handsome in kind of a quirky way, but I don't really view it as in the Cartier DNA or necessarily true to their original, aesthetic mission. I think that the drive in steel is probably the first truly well executed or perfectly executed Cartier sports watch. Why? It is in steel, probably a kind of a non-negotiable for true sports watches. Not to say that a yellow gold sub isn't a true sports watch, but it's a sub. The metal fundamentally, the size, the legibility, the overall kind of the shape of this kind of convex design that they pitch and kind of does make sense as a watch to wear, driving. It has kind of they kind of pitch it as this great visibility, but beside your driving glove, and it does make sense. It does seem like the case was designed with that in mind, right? So I do love the Santos, and I think it's well executed, and I probably like it more than the drive, but I respect the drive so much. Because whether they know it or not, I think Cartier has finally found the right execution, or the execution that is really respectful to their own history and logical in their evolution of design. And I'm just a big Cartier geek, and I know I pronounce it wrong, and everyone hates me, and that's the same old story. This is why everyone says you wear the same shirt. Yeah, I wear like what? In the summertime, how many short sleeve button downs do I have? 10? Flipsgraph wants to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how despicable is it to buy a counterfeit presidential bracelet for a Rolex Day-Date? That's a really good question. I don't think it's despicable. For you guys, what does that even mean? There are companies, primarily marketed as Italian companies, that manufacture non-Rolex presidential bracelets. Supposedly the quality's pretty good. Some of them even come with the Rolex crown on the clasp, but most of them don't. One, if you're gonna buy a replica bracelet, don't buy one with the Rolex crown, because then it becomes fake as opposed to just mimicky. I don't know. Here's why I don't think you should do it, because the difference in price doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it worth it. For the extra $2,000 you'll spend. First of all, we're talking about someone who already is spending $10,000 on a watch, so the extra $2,000 shouldn't be a problem for you. You should be able to go for it, right? I mean, now I'm not going to say the same thing for someone that's budget is $700, but if you're spending $11,000, the extra $2,000 shouldn't kill you. I think you should spring for the real one for a lot of reasons. One, resale value. Two, the fact that it is in fact Rolex, and you know that you are wearing a Rolex bracelet as opposed to a knockoff. And finally, three would be the difference in the price point is not large enough. If the Rolex bracelet was $10,000 and the knockoff solid gold 18 karat was $2,000, I would say, yeah, $8,000. Okay, I get it. You can go do great things with that $8,000. With the $2,000, I think that if you choke it up and you go for the Rolex, you will never regret it. Whereas if you buy the, counterfeit one, I think that you're always going to kind of feel like, oh, I have a Rolex on a, bullshit, kind of fake bracelet. So that's kind of how I feel. So loud. What makes the TNH straps worth being double the price of the Hodinkee straps? Deciding what to put on my vintage Tudor oyster date. Really good question. If you're comparing apples to apples and you're comparing the Hodinkee line of straps that compete with our line of straps, they're actually $10 to $15 more expensive than ours. Now, Hodinkee does offer a more affordable, I think $100-something calf unlined, strap. You can't compare those two things. If you just want a regular, calf online strap or whatever the hell they're selling, that's fine. But you're not attempting to play in the same level of craftsmanship. And Hodinkee doesn't claim that they are selling you that. It's not comparing apples to apples. So if that's your thing, if you'd prefer to spend $100 and just get a very, very simple no frills strap that will last you a year or whatever, go for it. No qualm. If you're going to spend the extra money and you want to compare their iteration, and I'm not just calling out Hodinkee, I'm calling out almost everyone in the strap business. You want their iteration of a handcrafted, European watch strap versus ours. You cannot compare the quality. I know there are haters out there that say, oh, they're overpriced, yada yada yada. You can't compare the quality. I'm not saying that everyone should go out and spend $200 on a strap. If it's not your jam, it's not your jam. I'm that kind of person. I feel like my Datejust, one of the most special items in my life, deserves a strap that is top notch. I just do. The same way that I would, if my dad had no shoes, I would buy him a nice pair. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to let him walk around in a beautiful suit and those duck feet shoes. It's just not going to happen. So that's kind of my opinion. Ultimately, I can't convince you of the difference in quality. It's something you either have to trust me on or try both. But there has literally never been a person that has purchased one of our straps, and I'm talking about several hundred people, that has refuted my claims or our TNH claims of the superiority of these straps. Not one person. And I've received many, many emails saying, holy shit, you're a little annoying, you talk up your company a little bit too much, but fuck, you're right, your straps are really incredible. That's my whole shtick. And once again, I don't think that I'm not calling out Hodinkee. I'm calling out everyone. It's just certainly not a Hodinkee problem. I think that the strap competitors at our price point, I don't even think they're trying to put up a competing product. I don't think it's too really hard. I don't think the competition's really there. One company, us, is first of all outsourcing the work to someone that's been making straps since the 1800s. I think truly an artisan, and the other one is not just Hodinkee. I mean, everyone else is everyone's buying from the same person, and half of it's all shit, and it's all Chinese, and it's all under, and once again, not the Chinese things are shit. That's not my point. But they're mass produced in factories, and they're, everything's in a factory. But I'm talking about they're mass produced not by artisans, but they're being glued and just pressed together, not by the little old workers that the little old European hillside workers that people market their straps to be from. Good question. Okay, finally, what do I think of modding watches? One more question, and then we'll wrap it up. So the example that whoever it was asked here, or will point it out, was I have an aftermarket crystal on my Rolex Datejust. It's a dome crystal. It has no Cyclops, and it is not Rolex. So technically, my Datejust is not 100% genuine. Now, when you say it like that, it sounds, it sounds like I'm wearing a fake watch, which is totally not the case. I made a very, conscious decision to, in my opinion, improve my Datejust. Or, if not necessarily improve. I don't mean that, because it's not necessarily an improvement. But for me, it spiced the watch up a little bit. It's something that I'd seen around a lot. I happen to like the aesthetic of it. Period. So what do I think about modding watches? I think go ahead. I don't think it's a problem at all. I think that it's very important for you to always keep original parts, for value, for sentimental value, for resale, for everything. But have fun. I mean, truthfully, I wouldn't put a sapphire case back on my Datejust. It's just not what I want to do. But I'd have no problem with it. If I saw someone else with it, I would say, well, that's really interesting. That's really cool. Be careful, obviously, because when you're modding, the watch is in your hands, and it becomes, a little bit risky and dangerous as opposed to, factory. But overall, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. If you want to put Breguet hands on a vintage Longines, why not? Breguet hands that you think are particularly beautiful, why not? Why stick with the stick hands that you don't like? Look around, mess around with it, and now don't go sell it as if, this is a rare Breguet hand vintage Longines. Just be honest. I mean, frankly, I wouldn't really even see a problem with that. If someone reached out to me and said, hey, I have a Longines here. Originally it was stick. I changed it to Breguet. I unfortunately lost the stick hands to this watch, but it's perfect as is, just technically not original. I'd probably buy it. And I would disclose it in the listing, and I would stand fully behind it because I view it as if it was beautiful, a genuinely interesting, maybe even improved upon, vintage Longines. I don't take myself that seriously. I don't. Now when it comes to modding, I think that when you're talking about the world like Philips and then the world of really, really high-end watch auctions, I don't think there's really room for modding there, because so much, or if not all, of the value of these watches is in their originality, or at least people say it is. So that's very important. But when you're talking about the, affordable, approachable level of watches, have fun with it. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of AskTNH. If you want to join in on our next live, follow us on Instagram at Theo and Harris, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel at Theo and Harris for more watch geeky content. I'll see you all tomorrow.